And
And
welcome to I'm Blurry. That's encouraging. Welcome to This Week of Worcester Podcast. I'm Tom Marino, editor of This Week of Worcester. This is John Edward Keogh. He is executive producer of Managing Media, president of Hollywood Film Group. It's been an interesting day, John.
yeah, I can't. You can say that. You can say it's been interesting. That's for sure. Well,
so I'm very blurry, and that's making me upset.
we can't have a blurry Tom.
I know.
Well, maybe it's blurry on purpose. You know, maybe Spectrum's taking.
It's censoring me so I don't curse because this topic has me incensed today. Let's try. No, didn't work. Good. Let me start, and then you can talk, and I can do the refresh thing, see if that works.
Yeah.
So results today entirely predictable.
Results about what, Tom?
For those who don't know, and let me do the. You can start, and then I'll try and fix my issue here. The United States Department of Justice today released its report about the investigation of discriminatory patterns and practices within the Worcester Police Department, which it announced 2 years ago in November 2022. And the results were not good. There is an extensive accounting of excessive use of force. They give examples in the what appeared to me to be, based on what they said, a very large study of documents and case files, etc., in the Worcester Department. And the results were bad. It was an extensive section on excessive use of force, and a section on inappropriate sexual contact, which was, according to the Department of Justice, the first time they had ever found such a thing in the 80-some investigations like this that they've done. How's that for an intro?
I mean, that's a pretty good intro. So, I mean, I think that we should really dig into that particular subject because I remember, I don't know if you remember that, we have a couple of advocates for, women in the city who had been accused systematically over the past couple of years of making this up.
Yep.
And specifically, I want to mention Nikki Belpena, who was basically called by multiple members of the city, current sitting city councilors that are on right now, city administration, officials who still work there, that she was imagining this, that she was crazy, and that not only that it didn't happen, but there's no realm ever that anybody would ever believe this. But we have 6 lawyers at least, 2 of whom are documented Republican appointees. So I want to make sure that everybody, that's watching and, into this thing, they don't start to think that this is like a one-sided argument or anything like that. This team is a bipartisan team. It was put together on purpose, right? So that particular accusation couldn't be made. And Josh Levi, the U.S. attorney, has never been accused of being a progressive in any way, shape, or form. So let's get that. Let's immediately nip that in the bud. This is not an anti-police report. This is a systematic review of behavior and practices over a period of time. But we have had a city that is complicit in this just ridiculous nonsense and accused good folks that were trying to make a difference of being crazy. And now we have here evidence that these 6 professional attorneys with years of experience across multiple categories of law see that there was actually evidence that was happening. So it turns out she's not crazy, Tom.
Well, so this isn't a new accusation. Like this accusation, I'm not saying it was, true, what I heard, whatever, but I mean, this has been out there. Okay. But those of us who looked into it, at least myself as a I think more importantly, a male, but also a white male. When you talk to people who say that some version of this has happened to them,
Yeah.
and then they tell you about it and it's uncomfortable because it's a disgusting thing. And at least in my experience, that there was two people I talked to. This was now years ago, who, when you ask who, the response is not evasiveness, it is fear.
Yeah.
And so when the city's attorney this morning releases a statement to the Telegram and Gazette criticizing the report because it's all anonymized, there's no names in it, not of police officers, there's no names in it. Okay. That's why. That's precisely why. Because this was not a criminal investigation, it was a civil investigation. The actual intended goal here is to improve the police department. This investigation could not bring criminal charges like the city's attorney challenged the Department of Justice to do. It actually can't do that. It doesn't have the power to do that. It could refer what it found back to DOJ, but then its criminal division would deal with it, right? These people can't just bring charges. That's not what they do. So, this effort released first thing this morning. I actually saw that the TNG had this before I saw that the report was out. And so obviously knew then reports out there are coming. And otherwise, the administration's response today was nothing. It was crickets from City Hall today.
Not only crickets, Tom, but, and I don't want to lean into conspiracy theories, but I mean, at this point, let's just talk about it. The city solicitor resigned on Friday out of nowhere.
He resigned. I mean, he's not done until next year.
But he announced his retirement. Pretty convenient, little timing of this. This report comes out on a Monday morning, and of course, the Telegram and Gazette, in their just consistent, not unbiased reporting, released a statement from the city's other attorney that they had hired to cover this situation. That was the Telegram and Gazette's lead this morning, right?
Yep.
Is to cover the city's backside. Which, of course, then now it opens up the questions about some of the things that the city administration has done for the Telegram and Gazette over the past couple of years. I think it's a. Oh no, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm leaning hard into this. I'm this is angering. This report is worse than we thought. It's actually worse than we thought. It's worse in so many ways. And the responses I've already seen online are, how come they didn't file any indictments? That's a neat trick. It's a really neat trick. So you obscure and you don't investigate criminal behavior by law enforcement officers for years. And you hide evidence and you destroy evidence and you do all those things. And then you complain when another agency doesn't have indictments to file against the officers that you've been helping hide evidence and destroy evidence and obscure investigations for years for. That's a really neat trick, Tom. And so it really looks like the worst possible things that have been said about the city are true. And so now maybe it's not as bad as possible, but there's going to be a group of people now that may have thought potentially good things about the city, about the city administration and the city government, that now are going to lean in the complete opposite direction because of abjectly foolish decision making, like this statement from this lawyer this morning. How tone deaf do you have to be? How tone deaf do you have to be? Because clearly in this report, there are multiple police officers who participated in the report. They participated in it. And the report that the city itself commissioned that was released earlier this year, this report reflects the same things that report was saying. So to say and to go on and all out, we're just going to defend the police thing, you look stupid. You look idiotic. You look like children.
But you made an important point there, though. That was actually the next point I was going to make, is that understand that this report is in part Not totally. A lot of people, obviously, if you read it, their sourcing is wide, and they looked at a lot of stuff.
They looked at a lot of stuff, dude.
A lot of stuff. But understand that, at least in part, they wouldn't have some of the stuff in that report if it weren't for police officers, people within the police department coming forward to talk to DOJ, be hoping that will make the department better because they're inside. They know it's some of the stuff that goes on, right?
And
those are the good guys.
And part of the report, part of the statement from the U.S. Attorney Joshua Levi was he used this term unprecedented on the webinar. So there was a webinar from 6 to 7 for those of you who didn't get a chance to see it. I don't know if they're going to put up a video version of it. It was really well done and kind of like honed in on specific points. But I thought one of the key components, the key takeaways, was at the beginning and at the end of the report, the U.S. Attorney thanked Chief Saucier for unprecedented cooperation. So you can't say that the police actually cooperated in this once the Chief Saucier became chief. They opened the books. So the information that they're reporting is based on the books being opened and being revealed and information. Some of these things were internal investigations. It says it in the report, according to internal investigations, according to internal reports. These are not made up allegations by some outside person. This is actual police reports that were subject to classification before this chief of police, this current chief of police. And I applaud him because this report makes him look like he actually cares about the city of Worcester and he cares about the people here because he gave access so then you could see a systematic thing. It makes me angry at the people who have hidden it, but it makes me super hopeful. We actually have a dude. We got a real guy in there who like says, hey, you know what? I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm not going to hide my friends who are raping prostitutes. What the hell? Like, and there's people reacting on stupid The social media is the worst thing ever. It really is. There's people reacting in the Seven Hills political thing. They think they can't see it, by the way, Tom. They still think we can't see when they block us that they're reacting over there. And they're like, how dare they question the police? Dude, the police, it was from police reports. It was from police reports. You fools. You just abject, epic fools. How can you respond like that? It's crazy. This isn't from whisper campaigns or people meeting in the dark. This is from actual internal evidence.
Right. And so, but there's also, I mean, we both know, plenty of police officers cooperated with this investigation. Lots of them talked to it, right? And
we're by the way, just before you move on, not just 5, not just a dozen. We're talking numbers closer to 50 and 60 police officers who participated before the change in chief. That was before the change in chief. They participated anonymously with this report. And then after the change in chief, the estimate is that more than 100 officers participated in this investigation voluntarily. This is just the summary, guys. This is the summary report. This is not. There's depositions coming. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The city. Oh my goodness, should they walk back that response? What a terrible, terrible response. They responded to the summary, Tom. They responded to the summary.
And so those that cooperate, right? So those that cooperate with the investigation, right? Those are people who want to see the department get better. They actually want this stuff to be found so it can stop.
Because they are heroes. There are real heroes in the police department, Tom. We've never said that that they don't exist.
Right.
And the people that are critical.
But understand so today, this report came out this morning, and this lawyer didn't make this statement without the city decided this is how it wanted to respond. Maybe it didn't write the actual words, but the lawyer didn't do this on its own. That wouldn't happen. Right. That would be insane if it did. As a client, you'd be quite upset about that if you didn't make that decision jointly. And so the city's faced with this report that found all these awful things and taking the side of the people that cooperated with inside the police department that cooperated with the investigation, or it could defend the people doing the awful things. And it made the decision to attack the report about the people that were doing the awful thing. So screw the however many it was. I hadn't heard that number, but however many it was, those that came forward and cooperated because they want the department to be better.
Yeah, and I want to.
The administration, the leadership of this administration made a conscious decision. It was faced with these options, and that's what it chose. And to take the side of the people that are doing the things that are in the report.
And the what you're talking about, some of the stuff was pre-body camera. So the only way that they could get evidence that was not by like a participant, for example, the guy who the young man who was tased and then punch tased for loitering, right? He was tased multiple times for loitering, 17-year-old boy. That according to the report, the summary webinar, that boy wouldn't participate in the process. The information about that incident, that specific incident, was from an officer who was at the scene and saw what his fellow officer did and said, I have to tell somebody about this. Reported it to a superior officer, and that officer did nothing about it. Then another person got involved, and the original officer got in trouble for not reporting the incident. So, but they didn't get disciplined, as Tom put in his 2 articles today. They didn't. There was multiple cases where the officers didn't receive discipline for the original act. They only received, like a desk duty or something like that, or a day off because of not reporting it up the line. So not covering their ass, not CYA, right? And then in this case, so the reason we only know about this is not from some secret conspiracy to take down the police. It was from an actual police officer who said, bro, what are you doing? It's the kid. He's a young kid. Like, we were just told to get him out of the park, not take him down because he walked away. That's what he said. He walked away. That's what the report says. Tom, it's nonsense. It's abject nonsense. How is this possible?
It's unbelievable to me. Like, anybody, everybody has an ego, and you need an ego to be involved in public life. Okay.
Sure.
And I'm not saying I am ego free. That would be the first thing for this. But like, if you are in public life and you're a leader, wouldn't you run to a microphone today to say the right thing, to be a leader? Wouldn't you run to a microphone?
Yeah,
to take responsibility and pledge to fix it.
Yeah, I can see right now. What happened? Your mic went out.
Do what?
Oh, it's back.
Oh, I froze.
Yeah, it's okay. So, what you said, I agree with you, Tom. Why wouldn't you run? I want to say this right now. There are I know I asked you. Can people come on live?
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Just suddenly you can if you can't, you can send a link. Same link.
I have the link. I have the link copied. So listen, the city council is watching the chat right now. You text me or Tom, and if you want to come on and respond to that, let's go. Let's absolutely go. But the fact that you haven't said anything yet today, there's been several councilors who have come and made their statements, but there's several of you who are silent today about this abject embarrassment of the city. This is an embarrassment of the city of Worcester. This is ridiculous. And as Tom pointed out, this is not a common thing. I love the witch hunt, aspect. This has happened 78 times in American history that a police department has had this kind of investigation against it. 78 times in American history, folks. That's not a lot.
It is actually, I did the math actually. It is 0.44% of the 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the country.
It just mind-boggling that you would think that you're like being subject to persecution. That means that at least there was something. And then they came out with a report that says that a bunch of the stuff that you denied, and it's been a denial train from the beginning, except for the chief of police, Paul Saucier. I have to give the dude credit because he has been openly, and that's it. But everybody else that's made public statements, right, over the past few years.
What we've been told, really.
Yeah.
I mean, what I was told the most was, gotta wait for the results of the investigation. So whatever was going on before the investigation, we'll just wait 2 years to do anything about it. But now we've done that. Now we've done that, and nobody has anything to say. All we have is the city administration, which is certainly not the city council, is not involved in making that statement. That's an administration decision. But the administration of the city decided to attack the report.
It's crazy, Tom.
Essentially defending the people doing the things in the report.
I just don't. It just blows my mind, man. It blows my mind. There's a report. One of the lines in there is that there's a captain that justified the sexual contact between police officers and prostitutes. Yeah, that's normal. That's a normal part of investigation. You know, they're undercover. You know, to take down the prostitute, you gotta let them. You know, go to do what they got to do. You know, like that is the culture at the Worcester Police Department. If even one officer truly believes that, that's crazy. That's insanity. How about the fact that female officers are being touched by male officers and captains, and they have to leave the police who are sworn to protect and serve them, and go to an outside attorney to make anything happen. They're being touched and bumped into and rubbed up against. That's what's going on in that building.
So a couple years ago now, there was Hector Pinero, who has long been lambasted as anti-police and hates the police and a horrible person and all kinds of things he's been called. In a deposition a couple years ago, or at least I got hold of the story a couple years ago. In a deposition, he asked somebody I think they asked them if they ever engaged in such a thing, which was, engaging in physical groping or touching to, quote, prove you're not a cop. So they asked if they had ever, Hector asked if they had ever engaged in that. They said no. And asked, I think it was a question about, is that allowed to be done or something like that, right? Like, is that, what's the actual policy? Like, what really happens? And the person refused to answer. And their attorney told them not to answer the question. Hector appealed to try and force a court to demand that they answer, and it didn't because it wasn't germane to the case. But that's how far they went to not answer that question. Well, now we know. Now we know.
I don't even. My brain can't process. It can't process the level of like open slaps to the face of the people of Worcester. just a series of years long subterfuge, years long obfuscation, years long hiding rapists that wear uniforms that are okay. This is okay. And you know what they're gonna do, Tom? I can tell you this right now, because at least that's what they with this open start, they're going to smear everything. They're going to go after the lawyers involved. You already saw one part of the article in the Telegram and Gazette was that several of the prosecutors have no prosecutorial experience.
Guess what?
Really?
They're not prosecuting anyone. They're not prosecuting anyone. That's why they wouldn't have that experience. That's not what they do. They do a different type of investigation. It's just because there was no chance that this investigation was going to lead to criminal charges. It could, but I mean, it would have to be a whole different division of the Department of Justice would have to then, that's not entirely true. I want to be very clear. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston for, the District of Massachusetts was involved in this investigation. It did the bulk of that presentation earlier tonight. So it was involved, but I mean, it was a civil rights investigation. It was headed by the Civil Rights Division, right? So they don't do criminal stuff typically. So it would make sense that the investigators wouldn't have prosecutorial experience because they're doing a job where they don't prosecute people.
And not only this, Tommy, this was started by under the Trump administration. This was started. This investigation didn't just start like the other day, so you can make it seem like this is a political thing. This was started by career Republican investigators into a police department, which is just mind-boggling when you really think about this. There's so much to say about the validity of these claims. Some of the specifics of this is just. I'm
not sure that that's exactly right. Actually, though, I don't think it was the Trump administration because
2017
is when they started this.
Yeah, according to their report, that they started. So
no, I think that's the cases I think the timetable of the cases that they looked at.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah. So no.
I mean, so here's what I'm right about. The two of the lawyers were Trump appointees.
I got you. Okay. Sorry. Got it. Yeah. Because I forget her name now. The former U.S. attorney.
Yeah, she got fired.
Right. But she said she wasn't appointed. She was confirmed for a very long time. I don't remember how long. And then, but she said in an interview that the investigation actually started before she was appointed. So we knew it started.
So
long before they announced it.
So there was a U.S. attorney in place that was a Trump appointee, and her confirmation took like 4 or 5 months past Biden's inauguration.
No, that was a Biden pick. She was a Biden pick.
No, I know she was a Biden pick, but the person before her was a Trump pick, and he had to stay on as part of the transition team because of. So this investigation was started by under an attorney. Now I understand that many of the people on the staff were as they were moving through, but
I don't know how relevant that is.
This was a bipartisan investigation. This is my entire
yeah. Well,
it was a bipartisan investigation.
Listen. I mean, I know that we've been fed for 6 straight years now that the FBI is the devil and blah blah blah. The Department of Justice, look, the idea that this report was going to come out any other way is hilarious. When the Department of Justice says your name, that is usually your backside. Like, I looked it up today. In 2022, you know how many of 70,000 defendants or something at the federal level? You know how many went to trial and were acquitted?
How many?
0.4%.
Right.
Like, when the Department of Justice says your name, you're in a bad way. It ain't good for you, So that they announced the investigation meant it wasn't going to be good. I said that from the beginning. Everybody told me we have to wait the 2 years for the investigation to be released, and now we just get the letter of smearing from a lawyer, and leadership is dead silent.
I mean, so, I would not listen to the leaderships. I hope that people hold the leadership accountable. Don't ask them about the response to the overall report. Start going after the specific situations. Is it okay for a police officer to touch a woman in the investigation of prostitution at any point? Or a man, whatever, it doesn't matter, man or a woman that's engaged, that happens to be a sex worker in some capacity. Is it okay for a police officer to engage in sexual activity at any point in any investigation with anybody? And the answer is no. This is not Jason Bourne, folks. You're not undercover spies that are going in and doing stuff and taking down the tough dude. You're talking about someone who is a street a sex worker on the street who's trying to make $50, and they're justifying officers having sex. That's what the city's response to this report, in my opinion, means that they agree that this stuff is okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's going a little far. I will say that they appear to think that what's important to defend right now is the people accused of doing the things in the report.
Yeah, because they're all innocent. They're like, right, they're just all innocent. This is all
the Department of Justice.
One of these is made up.
Tom, the Department of Justice launched a conspiracy against Worcester, Massachusetts. That's what happened.
Because there's nothing else better to do for the Department of Justice than to go after Worcester. Like if you're gonna do something, why don't you go after New York City or Boston or Hartford or like somewhere else other than why Worcester?
I put in my piece about this today. Somebody start a pool of who the first city official is going to be to utter the words deep state, because it's coming. That's where we're headed.
That's crazy.
That's the path. That's the signal about their strategy today. Is we'll just attack it. All these people that have been saying this for years, the hundreds of people over the years that have come into City Hall, to City Council, and beg them to do something about the police department, whether they did it respectfully or not, hundreds of people. And every time they were called crazies. or or they hate the police, or it was some excuse not to take any action. And you allowed this to continue.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Tom, when asked why she did not file a complaint, here's the root of this, right? You're saying they're saying, "Oh, there's no investigations." When asked why she did not file a complaint, she responded, "Where would I go?" Like many survivors of sexual assault, she explained she did not think anybody would believe her because she had a criminal record. That's the root of this report. That is the view from any individual in this city that is supposed to be served and protected by the men and women in blue. That should never be the case, that they didn't have anywhere to go because they didn't think anybody would believe them. But at the same time, you put up a victim of a crime and you say we have to believe the victim. But in this case, you won't believe this victim. Any official that comes out over this is accountability has been coming, folks, in this city at least, and you are going to be held accountable. This is not just going to stop here. We've talked about innocuous stuff like the cable contract and police overtime and all the other nonsensical things where you're corrupt. You're corrupt on potholes. But this is the root of distrust of institutions right here. A report like this even existing, that it could even be remotely possible if even 1% of the or how about this? If even 0.44% of the allegations are true, you have failed us as an institution. You have failed us. It's ridiculous. If one allegation is true, one, and you didn't investigate it, it's a failure. And this is not an anti-police statement, because the only reason we have this report is because of the men and women in blue who decided to help out and participate with this. This is from police officers who are telling on their brothers and sisters who are criminals. It's ridiculous. How can anyone defend this? Shame on the city. Shame on the city manager, the mayor, and everybody who supports the statement that ridiculous hack of an attorney made this morning. And shame on the Telegram and Gazette for printing that. Shame on you. And anybody who believes that, you're an idiot. If you believe that, you are an idiot. This is a woman who can't go anywhere. How is it possible that you would think this is real? Why would she say that? That is the most true thing you're ever going to hear. Where would I go? That's a victim of assault. We all know this is true.
And understand that the reason why there's no names in the report is so that the people will be more compelled to talk to them, because this investigation was never intended to find crimes. It was intended to find patterns and practices, what it's actually called, the investigation is literally called, within the department that enable this behavior. And they talk extensively about how, supervisors wouldn't report things and how systemic failures of, supervision happened all over the place. And again, people came into City Hall over and over and over again. Some of them were crazy. Some of them were just overtly rude. Many of them weren't. Many of them pleaded to do something. And still, for 2 years, the fact that this investigation happened was the sign. And you've all decided, everybody universally agreed, that we're not going to do a thing about it. We're just going to wait. And then today's the day. Come to Jesus and nah. We think we're going to outsmart the Department of Justice. You can't outsmart Telegram in federal court.
The dozens and dozens of women and victims that came forward and bravely went to the Department of Justice, they're not related. Tom, they're not related. They don't know each other. There's 15-year-old girls on this paper, and 17-year-old girls and little girls that have been destroyed by police officers. This is unbelievable. Some of the things that are written in here are exactly why we have our country in this situation where we don't believe anything that anybody says. The reason why complaints. There were some complaints that were filed, and some of the complaints that were cleared by the Bureau of Professional Standards. You're a joke, every single one of you, a joke. That you cleared it because the victim was afraid to talk to you because she was raped by a police officer. So of course she was afraid to talk to the police. Of course. What are you doing? What are you doing? We know this is a case. This is not like a new piece of evidence. Go on court TV and watch a case every single time. This is what happens. Yep. People don't just make stuff up.
No, but I mean, we already have a group of people in the city that thinks that somebody would make up the same story about somebody
hundreds of times,
assaulting them,
thousands of times.
Well, assaulting them, for 30 years. Some people in the city believe that somebody will tell that lie for 30 years. So
it's crazy.
It's not surprising. But I mean, just like, when's enough? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the pressures are, right? Everybody tells me it seems like both the police unions wield a lot of political power in the city, and I guess that's true. But it's not like they can just crush you like that because you read a DOJ report and said, "Oh, we have to do something about that." That's all you have to do at this point is point to what they said and say, "We need to fix that," because they came and did your job for you because you were unwilling to. They handed it to you on a platter, and the first thing they do is attack it. It's unbelievable. This man is in over his head.
It's crazy.
He can't do this job. He's not ready for this job.
They go after stuff that's basic. So one of the things that is in here is that they don't have an official policy on how to handle a sexual assault from an officer onto a victim.
No, you know why? And this is typical government stuff, old government stuff. Most places they don't do this anymore, right? They fixed this by now, and they have improved to a large degree. But back in the day, government didn't like to document stuff. Because if it was documented, then you could hold them accountable for it in court. If they don't have a policy, then there's no policy to break and there's nothing to sue them for. And that happens a lot still.
So, that's, in this case, that's not like accusing someone of a specific crime. It's not a blanket statement. It's saying, hey, what's your policy for dealing with say a sergeant raping a prostitute? What's your policy for that? And the response from the police was, we don't have a specific written policy for that. And so the recommendation is, you
write the policy.
Write the policy. And the response from the city is, it's a smear. No, the response is, the correct legal response from the city would be, hey, we need to see the full extent of the investigation. Some of the policy recommendations we're going to take a look at. That's it. That's all you say. And then Tom and I still scream at you, but we don't scream at you for basically affirming the crimes of police officers. And and I'm it's crazy because right now I'm seeing texts coming in from officers right now who are happy that like officers right now at the sergeant level, at the lieutenant level, patrolmen that are texting right now that are happy that this report is out because the finally light is coming into the police department. They're applauding this report. Police officers right now. So all you people with your fake cops who aren't real heroes that don't deserve the badge. Oh my goodness, Tom. Oh my goodness.
And look, I mean, I knew this was coming. I didn't the extent of the sex related stuff that was in there, because not all sexual assault. That's why I keep parsing it. I don't want to misrepresent it as all sexual assault.
No.
Just some inappropriate contact, they call it in a lot of places. So that's why I'm parsing the words there. But I didn't know to the extent of that. Most of the excessive force stuff, I mean, some of that was very publicly known. I had heard about some of the rest of it. Some stuff in there I didn't have no idea about. The stuff about the tasers, the whole section about the overuse of tasers, about a kid was loitering and they tased him in the stomach after he started to back away from the cop. He tased him in his stomach and then he tased him in the back while he was down on the ground from the first tase, and said that he slipped when trying to take the first tase out. And there's video, and the video shows that that's not true, and he wasn't disciplined.
He wasn't.
That's in the report.
And by the way, in this case, they do have a policy. It's called the paradigm of force. It's a policy that was implemented almost nationwide around the country. So there's actually a step-by-step use of force depending on how the person is responding. And so that officer immediately violated the paradigm of force by immediately deploying the taser. He should have first tried. The first thing is de-escalation, conversational de-escalation. The second thing is hand-to-hand inclusion, like to get someone close to you and to try to control them that way. Then you start deploying different things. But he broke the first two steps. He broke the first two steps. He did, Tom. He jumped right to zap, to the kid that was loitering. And then he lied about shooting him. He lied and said he was electrocuted and he accidentally deployed it. And the video shows that he told me the thing he said he did happened after he zapped him the second time. Oh my God. And he didn't even get a day off. He didn't even get a day to go, hey, go home and think about this kid. Didn't even do that, Tom.
Hey, look, I've talked about this before. I mean, the beer garden situation, that kid, he did nothing wrong. And they tried to charge him with crimes, and they didn't know that there was surveillance video of the whole thing that showed that the crime that they charged him with never happened. And you know what happened to that guy? Nothing. Still was on the force.
Look at the traffic stop outcomes. This is a blind study, guys. This is a blind study based on percentages of you're most likely to. By the way, the Black and brown community has been saying this for years. Hey, when I'm driving, I get pulled over more. Guess what? This is very, very, very true. That this happens all the time. So this is not something that is that we can say, oh, this didn't happen. The arrest rate for Hispanic drivers in the city of Worcester, 80% higher. 80%. That's not like a small number. It's 80%. And African Americans clocking in at a solid 62.2% higher than the mean. By the way, it is that study. Go look at the trap. It's on page 28 of this report. They adjusted for racial disparities. So they eliminated the mean in a study and just said in total stops, what happens outcome wise. And you're 80% more likely to be arrested if you're Hispanic and 60% more likely to be arrested if you're Black. And those are straight black and white numbers. You can't deny those numbers. And they just intentionally decided not to include cumulative totals. But if it's this high, based on the number of reports, we're talking tens of thousands, Tom, of stops. It's for 5 years. This is a joke. There's nothing like this, folks. This is a systematic approach to a department's procedures that is openly the report. Laura, the report is everywhere. It's right now on Tom's page on This Week in Worcester. It's available in Worcester Political Dialogue. And then the website itself is justice.gov/CRT/media 1378896/DL. That's the PDF yourself. You can access it and read it yourself. And then Tom's going to post it probably right live into the report for you.
Yeah, I'll find it in a second. It's
it's Sean's right, but they're not pulling over enough people, right? Because we gotta lower the speed limits, right? Because oh my God, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, and another one. I don't think this was the same one as the case I just described. And another one, somebody reported kids were causing some sort of nuisance. They gave a description of the person. An officer ran into another person who was not wearing the clothes that was described, nor fit the description otherwise. He was wearing white pants. Right. And when the officer approached him to say, I'm going to detain you, the kid, of course, had a flight response
because he wasn't the kid.
Over again, especially people of color having a flight response. This is why. It's because he was just being detained for no reason. He was just walking. And somebody immediately says, I'm detaining you. And then naturally he starts to back away and put his hands up. And so the officer used force, even though there was no threat to him. He wasn't even acting aggressively. And that is not allowed. You can't do that.
But not only that, Tom, you have the responses that are going to come in the chat. Let's not just in our chat, but on the online. Well, if he didn't have anything to hide, he should have just listened to the officer. Oh, really? That's what you think. If he didn't have anything to hide, he just should have listened. No, he was being approached by an angry and screaming officer who had his weapon deployed, and he freaked out. He freaked out and ran away like any young man or a young woman or young person would when coming to an officer. How's just walking? I'm just walking with white pants, not black pants. I'm just walking, and this person starts screaming, detain. By the way, you do not have to stop. You do not have to stop for an illegal detainment. You do not have to identify yourself. You do not have to do. That's the entire point of our country. Literally, that's you guys want to talk about the founding fathers and the Constitution and all this stuff all the time? That's what they were doing to them. The British officers were stopping them for no reason. This is the point of what we were supposedly founded on, that you want to make it like that again. Well, guess what? Here's not like that again. Here's not like that again.
And understand, what they did was kill people. We're just asking you to fix it.
Yeah, we're just asking you don't murder anybody. And we're asking you don't rape anybody as a police officer. And we're asking you stop pulling over kids who are brown and black because they're brown and black. That's all we're asking. That's really, it's that hard, right? It's difficult. And by the way, the context of the report is we're not going to arrest you. We're not going to go back unless there's a crime that we can prove that's a high level crime, right? And even then, it has to be at the state level. That's what people don't understand. The Department of Justice doesn't have jurisdiction over state level crime unless they can prove that there's some kind of organizational, involvement in it. And the report doesn't say that. It says there's a culture of rogue officers. There's there's a separate police department within the police department that's being protected by city officials and other higher ups, and that there's another police department that doesn't do that. That's what it says. So they're saying they're not trying to take down cops. They're saying that the only way to stop this behavior from happening is by saying, here's what we found. Here's years and years and years and years and years of evidence, decades long complaints that are the same. How is it possible, Tom, that a complaint from
things? And I don't mean to be woe is me, but I'm going to be woe is me. I have said much of this, in general, like the themes at least. I've talked about all about the taser stuff, of the excessive force stuff, and have talked about some of the blackmailing of women that work. But how much of it they had, stuff I hadn't heard before. And like the whole point is you need to fix this stuff, and they're attacking it. Nobody's going to go to jail. Nobody's going to be charged with any crimes.
No.
Although the city's lawyer antagonized challenged the DOJ to bring criminal charges today. But you know who could investigate the crimes discussed in the report? The city manager could order the Worcester Police Department to do that.
Right.
And that's not going to happen.
And Dan, there's so much here. The current chief of police, before he became the chief of police, was the deputy chief in charge of investigations. He was which we normally call the detectives bureau, the people who investigated crime, not the patrolmen, not the traffic officers, not the responding officers. Investigations, which means that internal investigations were under this guy as well, right? And the report is full of documents from that. So where do you think it came from, folks? Where do you think it came from? And again, we can't say that it came from any specific person because nobody signed on it, right? But how do you think they got access to be able to say this? How do they know that it fails to hold officers accountable? How do they know that the procedure is if an officer, if a victim, if I said, hey, Tom's a sergeant, Tom comes to my house, he beats me up, I complain excessive force against him. I don't go to jail. This is just a regular person in their house. And I say he used excessive force against me. Tom's supervisor investigates me. That's the policy. not the BOPS, which is the Bureau of Professional Standards. And by the way, it is the actual written policy. It's supposed to be that case is then sent to the Bureau of Professional Standards, but it's not. In this case, we have supervisors quashing investigations before they get to the group that's supposed to investigate it. And they admitted it. This is not something they're denying. They're saying that's how we do it. We usually have a supervisor who's on duty, handle the complaint, and we try to have them talk it out with the person, see where they are, because they want complaints to be down, Tom. They don't want the complaints to go in. And so the supervisor can stop it from escalating to BOPS level. So then the numbers that you hear the city manager and the mayor talk about over the past few years, and the former city manager talk about, well, we don't actually have that many complaints. In this report, they admitted that they were reducing complaints internally. Folks, it's right in front of you. You can read it yourselves. You can't deny it.
Yeah, I mean, look, and they talk about it too. There's, I mean, specifically the beer garden case. The report all makes sense. Like, this is what happened. This is what the officer, the rest of the kids said happened. Then there was video. None of those things happened. And then it just gets to the bottom and it just cuts him loose. There's like no real rhyme or reason for him not being found responsible for a reporting thing or not handling a dog correctly or something. It was like some, they pled it down. So what that does is just reinforce to the people that are doing the things in the report that they can keep doing what they're doing because nothing's going to happen.
Oh no, I don't.
Nobody's going to do anything about it.
Yeah, Sean, I don't think so at all. I think that the main reason this report happened was because of Paul Saucier. I think that the reason that we have this report is as bad as it is because we have someone who said, air it out. That's what happened. And that, I'm convinced of that. Because in the report, if you look at the timeline of the report, they mentioned that there was a time when they didn't cooperate and then a time when they did. And it was when the transition from chief to chief happened. That is an actual definitive timeline in this investigation. And so to me, I think he will be named. And if you listen to Josh Levi in the webinar, if you go back and check out the video, which is up on justice.gov, you can actually see the video now. The U.S. attorney applauds Chief Saucier for his cooperation and thinks that he's a partner moving forward for reform. So, I mean, I have to give him credit where credit is due. The reason we have this is not because of the city manager. It is not because of the mayor. It's not because of it's because of the current acting chief of police that we were able to get this extensive an investigation. Because if they didn't cooperate, they couldn't. There's no way they could have had internal documents like this. This is statements from police officers, not just victims, but police officers who were working investigations and saw their brothers and sisters committing these violations. That's why we have this. Good for them. Good for them for coming clean. Because that and by the way, this isn't over, Tom. There are people thinking that this was released because of an event. There is a sitting grand jury, folks. There is a sitting grand jury. The grand jury doesn't care who's president. That's not their job. Their job is to determine indictments. And so that doesn't mean that this is the end. This is also not the full report. This is the executive summary of the report. This doesn't have all the intervening documentation. Like, it doesn't have all the individual complaints, the things. It cites some of them, and it talks. And then Josh Levi talked tonight about releasing the victim statements in documentation. But he said, and also the woman who spoke right before him, I'm forgetting her name, but the attorney that spoke right before him, she said that they're trying to talk to victims, specific incidents in this report, to get them to go and by name, but they're having trouble because they're still afraid. They're still afraid, Tom, even though at least this group of attorneys tried to help them. That's crazy. Do you know how much fear that is? That even though we do have some evidence that there's some participation here by the police department, or at least part of the police department, and there's these 6 attorneys that tried to investigate this the right way, right? There's still people afraid out there to talk. That's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yep. And it's
mind-boggling.
The person that we're told leads the city, it's got nothing to say today. It's stunning to me.
No, I mean,
I've said it since this investigation was announced. I'm going to say it again, because now is kind of the last possible moment you do it. Go to a microphone, acknowledge the problem and the people that have been harmed. Acknowledge that it's unacceptable and that our police department has problems that have existed for a long time. And then take responsibility for fixing them and lay out a plan to do so. The DOJ will help you, and do it. Don't spend like Springfield did. Don't spend 2 years negotiating what you're going to do. Do what they tell you to do and fix it.
What
but first, come to the people of the city and God forbid, hold a press conference and answer a question for the first time in 3 years.
And tell the truth.
And take responsibility, acknowledge the problem, take responsibility for fixing it. Don't have some lawyer issue the dumbest statement humanly possible.
It's mind-boggling. It really truly is. It is mind-boggling that what's the city's current stand. And you know what's funny? There's some folks who are like, yeah, well, it's late at night, and no. This is an abject disaster for the city of Worcester. This is
the report I expected to be terrible,
but not this bad.
This
not this bad.
Look, I don't think I don't know him hardly at all. I don't think he's a bad guy, but this is not about, welcome to the NFL. It's not about who you are. It's about how you play. And this is bad.
This is beyond bad, Tom. This is another level that and even though I would say that even the most anti-police person in the city wouldn't look at this and say this is what they wanted to happen. No one wanted this to happen.
No, we just all knew it was coming. Sorry for being right. For which I've received a couple threats and be called all kinds of things. And I was right about almost all of it, quite frankly. But I'm not the only one. People have been telling you this. I'm just listening, unlike some people, people in power, positions of power in the city. I was actually listening to what the people said when hundreds of them over the last 5 years, came to council to tell you what was happening. And I listened, even though you didn't. So I've heard this all before, or a lot of it. All you have to do is pay attention.
I mean, word for word, some of the things that Nikki Bell Pena pointed out years ago, word for word, literally word for word, and she was run through the grist mill by columnists at the Telegram and Gazette. Shame on you, former Mayor Mariano, and the articles that you wrote about this woman. Shame on all of you for what you did to these people who said, hey, this is happening. This is a problem. This is not something that was new. Just it's just so ridiculous, Tom, that this could happen from a group of people that we were supposed to call heroes. That were heroes, and then we're supposed to look to them, first responders, right? The first people in, and they're the ones that are telling us, oh, hey, you know what? That's not, she's lying. She's lying. Bro, I feel ashamed to be from Worcester right now.
It's the most. I mean, how could you've handled it? I mean, I beg of you. I beg of you. Let another one of the many over the years residents of this city to come and practically beg you to do something. Finally, let this be another, please. Acknowledge the problem.
I mean, just think about the organization.
Tell us it's unacceptable. Take responsibility for fixing it.
It affirms everything that people have been saying. It affirms it. It's But Danielle just said word for word. It's not. It's word for word, and then it turns out it happened
for years,
for decades,
for years.
And it's like, hey, you know what? They were doing it here, and there was a different officer doing it here, and there was another officer doing it there, and and then there was this other kid who said it was this, and there was another person who said it was. It's unbelievable, and they all told us it was all made up.
Yep,
all made up. The cronies over there in Seven Hills political dialogue. You folks over there in that you should all be ashamed of yourselves. You should all be ashamed of yourselves.
I mean, they're civilians. They can say whatever they want.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's the silence of city leadership today that really bothers me.
And by the way,
really bothers.
Certain city councilors have brought this up on the floor and have been silenced. There's proposals to limit the amount of time that they can talk because they bring up these incidents on the floor. A systematic suppression of corruption by the city of Worcester. This shouldn't just be a local story, Tom. This should be a national story. This is insanity. Insanity. It touches every level of government.
And the only thing, and I'm grateful for this one thing, the only thing they've done right about this was I think that they tripped into really the right guy at the head of the police department. I don't think this reflects on him at all, poorly at all. I think it reflects on him. If anything, reflects on him well. Yes, he was there, and yes, he was in positions of leadership over the years. He's the guy now, and things are different.
They accidentally stumbled into someone who doesn't lie. They accidentally stumbled into a leader who doesn't lie, blatantly lie. That's what they did. So it's a lottery ticket. Paul Saucier is a freaking lottery ticket. That's it. That was our only chance. Tom, you know what this means? If Paul Saucier didn't get this job, this might not have ever been. We might not have ever got this.
Well, I don't know about that, but I don't know if
the version of it wouldn't have been so substantiated. This is
correct.
Substantiated by officer upon officer upon officer who gave credible statements. This is not just, which by the way, the officers' statements are not more credible than the victims that this nonsense was perpetrated against, which was also a problem that was in this thing. Which, like, hey, supervisors were like, well, if the officer says it's not true, then I'm going to believe him about this girl who says that he was taking me to the cemetery to bang me in the patrol car. Like, come on,
or not that story, but another instance is, well, the officer said that they didn't do it, and meanwhile it's on the body camera, just nobody looked.
It's crazy. It's on.
It's on camera, or it's in video somewhere or something.
Video of the
evidence.
Incident.
Yeah.
The guy, the pastor dude, the guy who got tackled into his thing, 50-something-year-old man tased on his back. We have a video of it. That officer was never disciplined. He was never disciplined. This is a joke. It's a joke. In the video, Tom, that's on your article, there's an officer was like, yeah, you probably deserved it. He says that to a 57-year-old pastor, that he deserved to be tackled and tased in front of his family and children on the floor of the church. That's what an officer, that's the attitude, that's the tone that we have among some of the police officers in the city of Worcester. And let me tell you guys, I think that they can get away with this. You can't get away with this.
It has been reinforced to them by leadership for 20 years that they can.
Oh, and
that's why it's like this.
Tom, they're coming for us, buddy. Watch. I'm telling you, they're the smear campaign started this morning. It's coming. Yep. Everything you can possibly imagine. But you know what? I don't care what you say about me at all.
Yeah.
I do not care.
What the surprise will be was where it comes from, I think.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to get some of it. But, how much of where it comes from, that's different.
Yeah. When they deployed the whole mechanism,
I'm not sure. He was a captain.
No,
he was a captain. He was
a captain, but not a captain. ID.
Yeah, he's not a captain. I don't think at this point.
No, but that's a good question. So I mean, and by the way,
I know. I forget what his rank is now. But Captain Kieran, great guy.
Josh Levy tonight said something about some kind of structure document that they're gonna eventually show, like who was in charge of what. There's like there's like a chart. So I mean, I'm not 100% sure about that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've had a couple of councilors who made some statements. I'm sure you can figure out who came out to defend, people of the city of Worcester, and we've had a bunch of dead silence. So I don't know. Maybe some people will wake up in the morning, or maybe there'll be a couple come to Jesus moments over the course of the night. Maybe they'll see Tom and I show. I see a bunch of them in the chat, cowards. Go ahead and release a statement now. Go ahead, I dare you. I can't wait. This is great.
I just hope. No, look, let's look. At least you do too. But I know these people. I like them all. They're all nice people. We have political differences. That's fine. Yeah, but I would say this. I hope that all 11 members of the city council are encouraging strongly the city manager to change the trajectory of his strategy. And to do so absolutely immediately.
Yeah.
That's what I hope. And that continuing on the path that he's on would be unacceptable.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand that some of us in this city, and I'm not one of these people, not for this long at least, but there's been people in this city that have been smeared over and over and over again that have been saying this same thing for 20 years.
20
and you're
years,
still
man.
going to smear them.
It's crazy. Well, you know what, Tom? You know what? I guess at this point it doesn't matter though, right? Because at least some of us, are gonna just not, and we're gonna stand for the right thing. Some and I wish I had known more sooner. I really did, but I know this now, and I see this now, and I know we've been talking about it for years now. And on this show with you, and Manny's been talking about it for years, and there's been a lot of conversations with a lot of us going forward. But let's just not let up until whoever it is that was doing this nonsense, picking up a young girl, driving around 2 or 3 times a month, parking in some back alley in a rented car that was, by the way, I want to find that rental car. I'd like to see which officers were getting expensed those rental cars for investigations, because that, by the way, that's public record now. So, don't think that Tom and I aren't going to go over every single rental car on that police budget and figure out which one it is, because eventually it's going to be found out. And you know what? I encourage any officer who wants to come on here. You got more details? Bring it. Let's go. Let's go. Everything, every single incident, every single crime. If you are a police officer and you swear to uphold the law and protect and serve the people of Worcester, you deserve whatever you got if you broke and violated that trust. Yeah, if you're a regular person, maybe everybody should be held to the same standard, but I hold you to a higher standard.
And there's, and there's plenty of people within the police department who want that standard to be upheld. That's why they cooperated with trying to disclose what they do about this behavior, because they don't want it there, because they actually want to do the job.
And good for those officers who did help. Good for them.
Yeah,
good
absolutely. Absolutely. So faced with people who do despicable things and people who are trying their best to be heroes, I want to point out again, the initial response from the only thing that we have from the city through its attorney said, we take the side of the people doing the bad things.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Before it came out, too. So which means they read it. They read it, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure they got it. I would imagine they probably didn't get it much sooner than this morning. But no, maybe over the weekend or something.
I bet they got it.
I can imagine that the DOJ would give people that early.
Yeah.
But
I don't, and I know they're going to come out and say they were surprised by their timing and all this other stuff, because we've heard that from them a bunch of times. Like people owe them some specific call out. You know what I mean? Like no. It's just. Man, everything looks bad. Everything should be investigated now. All of it looks shady. All of it, all the time, man. And you know what? I'm sorry for the people in City Hall that aren't a part of this. That aren't part of these weird secret backroom deal-making groups that hide things and cheat things and don't let people do things because they think that they know better, right? Because they think that it's best for the city.
Because there is only one way, and that is the way of the executive.
It's crazy.
All other ways we just don't pretend don't exist.
It's crazy. Our leaders, man, they don't care. They just don't care about us. Michael Jackson was right.
So, I would like to, again, I just want to go back to it. We can wrap up the last point again, and I'm repeating myself again, but the lawyer's statement, the city's lawyer's statement today, challenged the Department of Justice to file criminal charges against people for what they found, and they actually can't do that. That division can't do it. DOJ, I don't think, could even do it. It would be a state level crime. But the Worcester Police Department can investigate those crimes.
That's
and
right.
Can file criminal charges. So why don't the city take its own advice, and the city manager can order the police department to probably form a special unit.
And how about that? Just run
investigate these crimes and bring criminal charges. Let's run it down. You can obviously have all the documentation.
Yeah. Let's prove that they're not true. Go ahead, run it down and prove that they're not true. Give us evidence that it's not true, because you can't. You can't. That's why they won't do it, Tom. They won't do it. But maybe Chief Saucier will. I hope he does. I hope he goes right. I hope he goes. I just don't. Man.
Look, people shouldn't be in positions where they're investigating people they've worked with for 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
That should never happen.
It shouldn't. Bring in somebody else. Bring
it's
in
the dumbest thing.
person, man.
And this report highlights that that the internal investigations have been a tool of who the leader is at the time. And when they didn't want to, even when they found evidence, it would get in the report, and then there would just be a no common sense whatsoever conclusion that the person wasn't responsible for what the evidence showed that they did. It's like amazing.
It's like the guy with the cards, right? With the little thing underneath it.
So
it's like,
just take it out of there.
Oh,
it is obviously part of the problem. So how about the police department just doesn't investigate itself anymore? Why don't we create something like, I've talked about this a little bit. Why don't we create something like an inspector general who has access to every document within the city and can not just seek out corruption, but also policy errors or policy not being executed. And that's how we get better, with some critique. But criticism on any level is looked at as evil, and you're divisive in this city.
No,
so we just do what we're just because we're just supposed to agree with what they say they're going to do, without any critical thought at all, because we don't know any better.
The chief of
except some of us have been saying the stuff that ended up in this report for years. But we don't know anything. What do we know?
We were making it up, Tom. We were making it up this whole time.
Fringe lunatics we are.
Fringe lunatics.
With all that truth. Listened.
It's terrible. Unbelievable, right? Sean,
no, but it could have it could have an office that's an investigative, just like at the federal level. They many states have. Florida weirdly makes extensive use of I forgot it already.
Special prosecutor.
Yeah, inspector generals.
Yeah.
But they don't bring criminal charges. They refer that to, if they find criminal activity, they refer that to the local prosecutor or whatever. But their job's to investigate government. Again, not just for like people stealing and crazy corruption, but policy inquiries, right? Is this policy working?
Well, I understand that there's a grand jury somewhere meeting. So, that grand jury.
I do not have that. That is a statement of you, sir, and not This Week in Worcester.
I have, and that's true. I'll take that on. I have sources that says that there's a sitting grand jury. That's me. I'm making that statement, not This Week in Worcester. John Everkio is making that statement. And that grand jury could issue indictments at any time, but those are for federal crimes. The state level crimes would have to be a state grand jury. I don't have any information that points to there being a state grand jury. That's all I know. I wish I knew more. I wish I could pin it on everybody, because believe me, if I could, I would. Let me tell you.
and Danielle, I didn't see. I missed your comment about public oversight of the police department. I am a little. I've come generally soft against at least citizen review boards. I think there is some, credibility to the argument that it depends on who's on the board and do they know what they're looking at and how they interpret things. And, police are concerned about it. Activism, I don't know about that so much, but just you have people that don't know what they're looking at, right? Have no expertise in this type of thing, or no experience, not even expertise, experience with this type of thing. But the inspector general thing, where there's independent, you actually give them independence to do their thing. And they issue reports, about government operation or whatever it might be, misconduct of anybody, anywhere in government, right? In any department. Inspector General's Chicago is a city that has a very, it seems to me at least, I don't follow it closely, but it seems to me has a very influential inspector general that writes reports on a bunch of different stuff that is held in high regard, at least it seems, by government. Maybe they don't always do it, but it's held in high regard. So, it isn't always about catching criminals, but also just about, is things being executed properly? And I think you have somebody with investigative experience. I think that, then they collect evidence, write reports, right? And that becomes public information. And that's my preferred way of going about it.
It's crazy, Tom. It's crazy.
That was a lot of babbling to say, I go IG, not citizen review board.
I'm down for citizen review board. I understand what Tom's saying about expertise. I just think that if people are put in the right position and given the opportunity to learn, that they can do anything. I believe all our expert and our expertise-based people have failed us. So I have no trust in their experience, no trust in their expertise. Based on what this report here is, they're the same people who have been running people down. Again, some of the women's advocacy groups, the folks that are unhoused, the mental health offices, all these different things have been saying this, a drumbeat of this for years and years and years. And the experts and the expertise have been saying, no, it's not true. Nah, it's all bullshit. It's not true. They're just making it up. A lot of people say things. It one bad apple. You know what I mean? It's no big deal. Every once in a while, you know what I mean? You can't solve every crime. You can't, you know what I mean, Tom? You can't arrest every bad driver, right? You know what I mean? But we'll damn sure make sure we arrest every Hispanic driver and every black driver. We'll make sure we do that at an 80% clip. Let's go for that. Right? Come on.
And I'm not. Shawnee asked about if the Chicago IG was set up after the black site scandal. I'm not even sure what that is. I'm not sure.
That's a rough one. That's a tough story, Tom. That's a wrap.
Let's not go there right now. I was looking for reports on ShotSpotter, and the IG out there wrote a report that seemed to kind of shake the foundations of local government there a little bit, because it was very, it was damning against ShotSpotter statistically, and that's how I became aware of it. Like I said, I don't follow it closely, but that seemed to be an earthquake in their local politics when that report came out. So I mean, that's good, right? I mean, they did an independent investigation of the thing, and they presented their findings, and then elected people talked about it, right? That's how it should be. But we don't get that here because we don't. Everything runs through one office.
Tom, I don't know. I mean, at this point, there's more than 1,000 people that watch us on a regular basis. Go to your city councilors, guys. Look at I can see some of them up on X right now and on Blue Sky and on Instagram. I can see them. Their little green dots are on. So why don't you send a message to your city council right now? Like, why aren't you releasing a thing saying that you're against this bad behavior? That or even a statement that says, if any of this is true, I condemn it. Anything like that, something basic like that. Go on and hit your city councilor right now. Go ahead and text them. They're watching. They're listening. All their little dots are on right now. I can see all of you little hiding in the shadows. And we gave you the opportunity, Tom. We said at the beginning, oh, you can come on right now. Text me right now. Text Tom right now. All of you have all of our numbers. We know that. You're tracking everything that we say, you little trolls. So go ahead and text us, and we'll put you on live right now. Only 2 of the city councilors have come out against this. And I'll send you something about it on Discord, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's talking to you, Tom. He's going to send you about that black site thing. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, but really, you have the opportunity right now, listeners, watchers, faithful this week in Twi. What do we call it? The Twiwa podcast, right? Everybody who watch TWIW, Twiwa. Is that how you pronounce that? Did I just make that up?
Let's just not pronounce it.
No,
it's awful.
But so those of you who, you're watching, text your city councilors, hold them accountable, because the reason they get away with stuff like this is because you let them. And I'm sorry, voters of the city of Worcester, you let this stuff happen. Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. Don't vote for them. Don't give them your money. Stop fundraising for them. Stop answering the phone calls and the texts and the emails that go out for the campaign stuff. You ward councilors for the city committee, the Democratic City Committee, you should be ashamed of yourselves when this thing comes out. Some of you denied it. It's unbelievable. Current candidates for city council that have already announced, right? Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. The only way this changes is if you do it. We got a lottery ticket and a police chief who actually wants to do something. Let's do something. Let's fix this. Let's change our city. Why can't our city be different than the rest of the country and then whatever nonsense is going on in, I don't know, Colorado? I don't know. I have no idea where it's the most corrupt. But why can't we be different? Why can't we care about each other?
The last point I want to make on this, and you're welcome to anything else you want to say. But I just like to, again, point out there's some very concerned, some certainly disproportionate treatment statistically of, Black people and Hispanic people in the city, and at least the number of stops and the number of arrests.
And it was a blind study, Tom.
And so while that again, this could be approached as, okay, we see the problem, let's work on fixing it, right? And be acknowledge the problem. Give the people who have been saying this for years the acknowledgement of being right. Tell the people of the city, we understand that there's a problem. We hear you. The DOJ says it. We're going to fix it.
We say we believe you.
But
say we
So
believe.
while we have those new statistics again, on the city council's agenda, under tabled items, is a petition from a resident asking for the public safety committee of the city council to hold hearings on systemic racism inside the police department. And the city continues to run from this issue. It doesn't want to talk about it. It doesn't know how to talk about it. And to bring somebody else in to talk about it would be showing that they don't know how to talk about it. Right? And so we're just going to end it. We're just going to sit here on the stalemate. We get another piece of evidence that shows that there's probably a problem here that should be addressed. And yet there it is. Every time you look at it, because it's a tabled item, so it's not going to move anytime soon, just sits there. Should be, it should be embarrassing to look at, but I don't think it is.
I think they think that it'll go away, Tom.
It'll go away. Long enough to go away, because the people that came to city council, I'm thinking specifically 2018, where there was protester in a day where protesters and the police department worked very close together, and there was no problems. Police let the protesters do some stuff that wouldn't typically be allowed. In exchange, the protesters worked with the police pretty closely. Everybody said it was a good day at the end of the day. And then a bunch of those people came to city council to plead, some of them pleading with city council to understand there's a problem here that needs to be addressed. And, there was we're going to have some public meetings about it that never happened, and they were ignored. And so they went away. Some of them, and I don't want to say they went away. Many of them I know are still involved in local activism on whatever issue that they're interested in. I don't want to say that they just went home. All of them, many of those people are still involved. But I mean, they came, they asked, you ignored them. So, what do you expect from them, but to disengage from the civics of the city? They're not involved. You don't listen. You tell them that they're either bad faith or crazies or whatever. How you deal with all the quote-unquote undesirables in the city. Addicts, same reefer madness style 1950s nonsense.
Just shame, dude. I don't know what else to say, man.
Yeah. I needed to yell. That's why I hit you up. I was sitting here screaming anyway, and I figured I'll hit up John and we'll go live and I'll scream online. Because the deficit of leadership is stunning.
How can they not say something after this comes out? Did no one read it? No one over there read it? No one? No one even said, hey, there's not one grown up in the office that thinks, hey, you know what? People might not like this report. This might be.
Or while you're reading it, going, Jesus Christ, this is bad.
Yeah. And that, oh my God, some of the stuff that is written down here is word for word. Exactly what people we said were stupid.
Yeah. I mean, and I did two pieces. I did a column, opinion piece, and I did a news piece on the release of the report in the excessive use of force section. And I quote the thing extensively. I mean, it's riddled with quotes because I'm not, trying to give people here an understanding. I tried to shorten things and compact some things a little bit, but I'm trying to get across here. It's not good. What is in the report is not good.
It's crazy.
And I guess the city hall decided to go home. Deal with this tomorrow, maybe. A lawyer will put out the dumbest statement ever. The exact opposite of a lawyer will speak for us and say the exact opposite thing of everything that we should be saying. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy. It's just mind-boggling, dude. I don't even know what
It's thoroughly disappointing. That's what it is.
10 times worse than all the crazy conspiracy theories I could have ever come up with. 10 times worse.
You think some wacky stuff sometimes.
I do think some wacky stuff. Turns out
I think your scale's a little off.
Hey, Tommy. Turns out I'm right about a bunch of this wacky stuff.
Yeah, right.
It turns out I'm nailing it, dude. Turns out John's been batting 1,000 for a long time. I should get some of that Soto money that they handed out over there from the Mets. That $765 million. Give me $1 million of that. Holy moly, man.
Yep.
This report is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And you know what? Kudos to them for releasing it now. Pre the holiday dearth of news that happens here in the city of Worcester when the entire city just disappears for multiple weeks until after the new year. Good for them for giving us a solid multi-week run. We're going to be talking about this for months. How about that? For months. Everything.
There's a lot.
And this is just the beginning. I'm going to do everything I can to get Josh Levi to come on and talk about it. I'm going to do everything I can to get the chief of police to come and talk about it in every capacity, whether it's on this and oh man, Sean, dude, I'm not going there, Sean. I refuse to go there. Refuse because of what we're dealing with tonight. I refuse. Oh man, it's just crazy. This whole thing, man. This whole thing is crazy.
So that's where we're at today. This is our impromptu, real quick hour and a half session.
You know, you don't get a favorite thing tonight, Tom, because this is gross.
No, this is a special edition. No favorite thing. That's
no
the way that is on Sunday. So thanks to all who tuned in, who commented. Shawnee DG is now blowing us up, and that's perfectly fine. Thank you, Nicole. If you're I'm sorry, Danielle, if you're still here, and anyone else who might have commented.
I see Maria participating. Maria Montano, Lynn. Thank you all for your
Oh, I didn't scroll up that far. I'm sorry. I didn't see something happen.
So all you
too busy yelling.
Call your city councilor. Call them, text them, Instagram them, Blue Sky them, X them, Facebook Messenger them. Facebook Messenger, call them. You know, that's the worst thing in the world to get a call on Facebook Messenger. You know, you ever get like a friend from someone overseas and you say yes stupidly, and then the Prince of Nigeria is calling you on the Messenger. Call your city councilors on Facebook Messenger and get them to come out with a statement that says they actually care about the people of the city of Worcester. And every single one of them that smeared Nikki Bell Pena, call them on it. I'm gonna work on an article for that too. I'm gonna try to talk to Nikki as well. I know she's working with Worcester Addresses Childhood Trauma with some stuff. By the way, those advocates that were smeared are still out there working, still out there trying and plugging away at the abusive stuff. So good for them and good for the city council. I know Attell had posted something earlier. Councilor 2 had posted something earlier. Councilor King, good for you. Good for coming out and talking about it, and good for the city, the leaders that we see, the consistent community leaders for coming out and slamming this thing just exactly like it deserves. So good for you. Those of you who are silent, your silence speaks volumes, man.
And I almost said something I would have regretted. But I will say to our elected officials, someone, dear God, and it has to be a white person, unfortunately, so that limits it. Somebody step into the vacuum of leadership, acknowledge what happened today, and pledge to fix it. Somebody be a leader. Anybody.
Yeah,
because this is embarrassing. So, well, we did a lot of yelling, and I hope that entertained anybody. It's kind of a sad day, and I think that's all for this. We will try to screw it up less next time, although we can't possibly screw it up as badly as the city is screwing this up.